Good Wednesday afternoon. Well, it may be morning still for some of you, but welcome to the newest edition of the MEAC More here on the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. Who am I? I'm Chris Stevens. I'm sorry. Wow. I was thinking about another introduction that I do. You guys know I have like 3 or 4 different podcasts or whatever. So, yeah, but this one, I'm Chris Stevens, HBCU Sports contributor. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. We're halfway through the week, and we've had a very interesting first couple of weeks of MEAC basketball, which is why we're here to talk about that today. But before we get to that, as usual, we have our sponsor. This edition of the MEAC More is brought to you by Rock Solid Contracting and Development out of Wilmington, Delaware. Rock Solid Contracting and Development handles all of your construction, demolition, and remediation needs. If you need something built, they'll build it. If you need something torn down, they can tear it down. And Rock Solid Contracting is owned and operated by an HBCU graduate, a Delaware State graduate, Norman Oliver. Once again, and we thank Norman, as always, for generously sponsoring this program, as he will do throughout the remainder of the academic and athletic year. Also, I have a music podcast. Nope, that's not it. That's my book. I'll talk more about that later. Well, my music podcast is called On the Groove Line. I have this wonderful outlet where I have talked to some old school R&B greats, and I share my thoughts on different R&B and funk music of today, yesterday, and what's coming in the future. If you guys want to give me a sub over there, you can go ahead and do that by going to the link which is on your screen, youtube.com/at on the groove line, and just help that channel be the best channel it can possibly be. So now that we've gotten the sponsorships out of the way, let's talk MEAC basketball. And boy, 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 what an interesting first week it has been. Raise your hand if you had UMES's men and women being first in the MEAC to start the first 3 games of the season. I better not see no hands. Well, I can't see your hands anyway, but I better not see no hands because I didn't predict this, okay? I didn't predict this. So let's be clear about this. What UMES is doing right now is the most pleasant surprise in Black college basketball at the moment. Let's take a look at the MEAC standings. So here's what we have on the men's side of things. Actually, there's a tie on the men's side because Lavelle Moulton's North Carolina Central Eagles have gotten off to a good start as well. But Maryland Eastern Shore has the distinction of defeating both the preseason favorite, Norfolk State, and the team that everybody thinks is going to win it this year anyway, Howard. So what Cleo Hill Jr. has done with the men's team at Norfolk State has just been tremendous. That's a dude who can recruit in his sleep. So he's not one of the ones that's going to be hurt by the portal like a lot of other coaches in different sports have been. And we'll talk more about the portal in a second. But what Maryland Eastern Shore is up against, quite honestly, is history. Both men's and women's teams have never made an NCAA tournament in modern times. The UMES men's team back in the mid 70s either they won the NIT or they made the NIT semifinals with guys named Joe Pace and Tal Skinner, both guys who went on to play in the NBA. Joe Pace went on to win an NBA championship with the then Washington Bullets. The UMES women have just never had any level of success, and credit goes to head coach Malika Willis for stepping in for a coach who had been there for 20 years, because Fred Batchelor was the coach at UMES for the women when I was a student at Delaware State. Tell you how long ago this was. So Coach Willis deserves a lot of credit for stepping in for a dude who literally was like a MEAC institution and remaking that program in her image. And now let's take a look at the women's standings. UMES is all alone atop the women's rankings. They have beaten Norfolk State, the 3-time defending champ. They have beaten Howard, the preseason favorite. And now, I mean, they just got to hold steady. They got to hold the line, and they're going to finish with a top 2 seed, I think. Because when you look at actually, the MEAC women's race across the board looks very interesting through the first 3 games. Shouts out to Lennon Blow for checking in. Appreciate you. So you see, UMES is at the top. You got Howard, Norfolk State, South Carolina State, and Common State 2-1. Morgan State, who had lost, I believe, 13 or 14 straight at one point, has a MEAC win. And the surprise is North Carolina Central on the women's side at 0-3. And everybody's looking at me, and people are probably wondering, Chris, what's up with Delaware State? I'll talk more about that in a minute. Lennon Blow says the UMES is the story of the MEAC so far. This proves Cleo Hill Jr. is a good coach. Yeah, I was really confused that he and Winston-Salem State parted company because he moved up. That's my mistake. I think he moved up, to take the UMES job. And again, UMES has not had the best of success in their Division One era. Mind you, we've been in Division One. The MEAC has been considered a Division One conference since 79. So we're talking about 45, 46 years of just pure struggle. I mean, I can't remember the last time UMES even made a semifinal on the men's side. On the women's side, it's probably longer than that. So we're talking about a school that, and I think what people miss about UMES is because the location. If you're not familiar with the Eastern Shore of Maryland, it is not the most densely populated place. My family comes from a place called Pondtown, Maryland. And if you never heard of it, don't worry about it. Because I didn't know about it until my grandmother told me about it shortly before she passed. But Pondtown, not Pound Town. No, not Sexy Red. We ain't doing no Sexy Red stuff here. No Pound Town. Pondtown, Maryland. So if you're not familiar with the Eastern Shore, ain't a lot over there. And it's hard to recruit when there ain't a lot over there. You really have to look deep. I mean, you got Ocean City. I mean, yeah, people go to Ocean City Secrets, the club Secrets. If you've never been to Secrets, like during a holiday weekend, it's kind of like Redneck Freaknik sort of. But yeah, there's not much on the Eastern Shore, so you're not gonna. The chances of you getting that level of kid that, say, a school like Howard would get in DC, or Morgan State or Coppin State would get in Baltimore, or even what Norfolk State gets in, the 7 cities. So UMES has got a lot working against them in terms of tradition, history, logistics. But here they are, both men and women, leading the whole deal. How long will that last? It's not fair to say, because I mean, the MEAC is a round robin schedule. You're going to see your opponent again later on down the line. And it's important to note that the UMES women beat Howard on their home floor at the Heights Center. They got to go to Burr later on this year. Granted, they've already beat Norfolk State at Eccles. So Norfolk State has to go to Heights later on this year. So there's a lot. I mean, there's still a lot left to be played, but I still think UMES is the story at this point in time. Absolutely right, Lennon. There's nothing on the Eastern Shore but Tyson and Purdue chicken plates. Yep, that's it. That's the list. I mean, if you weren't born industrial, I mean, because people have farms and stuff. So I mean, thanks, Mom. So there's my mom checking in. Pondtown is where your Uncle Walter and Aunt Esther lived, where you loved visiting as a child. Maybe you never knew the name. I didn't. I always thought, you always told me we were going to Millington and Chestertown, Ma. I don't remember it being Pondtown. But yes, it is. Yes, Pondtown, Maryland. That's where my family's from. So we can tell you, I can tell you, ain't much on the Eastern Shore. Ain't much on the Eastern Shore, but to, hang out with your older relatives and, watch them do what they do in the farms and help them with the farms stuff if they need you. And chances are they did. So yeah, there's not a lot on the Eastern Shore. So UMES does not have a lot going for it, but right now they have 2 excellent coaches, and that, quite frankly, does a lot. So UMES has done a wonderful job of, and I remember I talked to their AD, Dr. Tara Owens, a while back when they opted into the house settlement. And she said, we are in a unique position. We can put all of our chips to the table on every sport we have, including basketball, because we don't have a football program. Because people forget, Maryland Eastern Shore canceled football in 1980. So UMES has not had a football program in generations and probably won't have one again, because it's just too much money into building a football program from scratch, especially at the Division I level. Now, if they were starting Division III, Division II, NAIA, yeah, possibly. But if you're trying to start a Division I football program from scratch, you need a whole lot of money. And that money is just not, growing on trees. Money's not growing on trees for anything these days, quite frankly. So when I think about what AD Owens told me in our conversation, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Because now you look at it, Cleo Hill is able to go out and get the kind of players that he wants for his guys. Malika Willis is able to go out to get the kind of girls that she needs for her team. And lo and behold, UMES is at the top of the whole thing. Hey, again, we still got about 6-7 weeks of basketball left. So a lot can change in that point in time. But UMES absolutely right now is the story. Now, people are probably wondering, Chris, you haven't said anything about Delaware State basketball. What's really good? Well, when I mentioned that certain schools were going to be victimized by the portal, yeah, Delaware State has been absolutely ravaged, both men's and women's basketball, by the transfer portal. Because they had a rookie, because I never forget, the women's team had the MEAC Rookie of the Year, Savannah Brooks. She's from the Eastern Shore, by the way. And she left after she won MEAC Rookie of the Year because, well, if you win a conference's Rookie of the Year, chances are some other schools are going to be interested. That's usually how it works. You know, DSU's men's team lost a lot. When they made it to the finals in 24, they had a Jevin Muniz and Daywil Tavares. I call them the Latin connection. They both left after DSU made it to the MEAC championship game in 2024. So and you guys already know that my position on where Delaware State stands in the Delaware sports hierarchy is basically a design of misinformation, possibly some self-hatred, and just some laziness. And I'm not talking about this from the DSU standpoint. I'm talking about from the natives. Because I've heard black people say some negative things about Delaware State. And I'm like, oh, that's how you feel. You feel like that grass is greener on the PWI side. Duly noted. Come back to me when your kid hasn't played in 2 or 3 years. I said what I said. But yes, Stan Waterman, if you guys don't know, Stan Waterman is a Delaware legend. He coached at a high school called the Sanford School in Hockessin, which is a little up the road from me. He coached there for, 19, 20 years, won 571 ball games and 8 state championships. Like, this was a huge get for Tony Allen and Delaware State when they hired Stan Waterman to coach the men's program. And I still think it's a great hire for them. But I think what's really, again, the portal is just, beating everybody up. And Jazz Turner, God bless her, she stepped into a difficult situation because the coach that previously was hired, the coach that was hired for the women's team the same time Stan Waterman was hired to coach the men's team, just stopped showing up one day. She just stopped coming. Or just stopped conducting practice. Like, she just stopped being a coach. Never in my 24 years in this industry. And I've been a journalist a long time. More than half my life. I got the grays in my beard to show for it. I've been in this industry a long time. I've never heard of a Division I coach in any sport just say, I ain't coming to work no more in the middle of the season. Ever. And that's what Jazz Turner has stepped into. And she's a young coach. She's still, trying to figure out, how to best relate to her players and, in the portal and all of that. And it's a challenge. Delaware State has two returning players from last year. 2 on the women's side. It's hard to get some continuity like that. It's hard to get some continuity like that when everything is just like in flux the way it is. Yeah, man. That's what that's what a high school parent told me that their kid was on the Delaware State recruiting radar. This kid went to another D1. So, yeah. But yeah, that's what this parent told me. They said this woman just stopped showing up to work one day. I'm like, damn, how you do that? Ain't never in my life. But that's apparently what happened. And that's what Jazz Turner is trying to untangle, if you will. Shout out to the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, late great American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, if you will, baby. That's what she's trying to untangle. And in a competitive conference like the MEAC, hey, it's tough. Oh yes, we are accepting super chats. We are trying to keep this program alive, this situation alive. And by the way, if you guys donate a super chat, I will gladly drop this on you. If you email us at HBCU Sports, let us know you dropped the super chat and email us and say, hey, I want a copy of Chris Stevens' romance novel, A Widower's Gift. Yes, Christmas is over, but a romance story never gets old. So if you drop a super chat during the duration of this program, I will give you a free copy of that book. It's an ebook. You'll either get it a EPUB file which you can download to your Kindle, or a PDF form which you can download to your phone or your laptop or whatever and read the book. So yes, if you want to do that, if you want to drop a super chat, I will give you, during the course of this program, I will give you a free book. That's how we work. That's how we roll around here. We make everything worth your while. Stan asks, why are UMES and Coppin State without a football team? The MEAC could stop their football search as they upgrade. Eye of the Watcher said they're without a football team because they could not afford to keep them. Also, I believe Coppin State has one of the smallest athletic budgets in Division I. Football is not a moneymaker for all schools, and for some schools, not having football is better for the budget. Yes, that's absolutely right. Like I said, Dr. Tara Owens at UMES told me they are better equipped to, support their players financially because they don't have a football program. And the same probably holds true for Coppin State. And again, Coppin State is in West Baltimore. Where are you going to get the space for a football field out there? Because I can tell you now, Morgan State ain't loaning out their field. They on the other side of town. Neither is Towson. And I guarantee you, if they wanted to go to the Ravens Stadium, M&T Bank, that rent ain't cheap either. So Coppin State is where they are because that's just the lay of the land. They're landlocked. There's no, unless you are tearing down house upon house upon house, neighborhood upon neighborhood upon neighborhood, there's no football field to be had. There's not. I know Coppin has a club football team, but if you're going to need millions upon millions of dollars to upgrade these things for Coppin State and UMES. And right now, that's just not plausible for anybody. Yeah, if you missed Ken Rashad so generously reading excerpts from my book on our New Year's Eve stream, you'll know that A Widower's Gift is kind of steamy. Yeah. But yeah, if you drop a super chat during this program, I will, and let us know that you dropped a super chat. Leave us your email address. I will give you a free e-copy of the book. So, yeah, that's where we are right now. I mean, I think a lot of people fail to realize that. By the way, you should read this column that R. Kendrick Marshall wrote that is absolutely phenomenal. Let me pull that up for y'all now so I can drop it in the chat. And Kendrick wrote a very awesome piece about Tremaine Jackson, the Prairie View football coach's comments, during the American Football Coaches Association convention last weekend. So if you have not read Kendrick's column, I highly recommend you do, because he is saying, he's absolutely correct about Tremaine Jackson saying the quiet part out loud, and he's not wrong. Coaches right now are in the business of staying employed. It is really that simple. And how do you stay employed? By putting the best team on the field and on the court. And how do you put the best teams on the field and on the court? With experienced players. That's how the game works. That's how the game works. And I think what's probably the most frustrating is that I see the kids. I mean, because I cover high school basketball here in Delaware, aside from what I do here with HBCU Sports. And I see the frustration on the parents' faces from a high school level for football and basketball. These parents and their kids are stressed out because the opportunities are just not there. They're just not there. Because when you take into account there are 9,000 college football players in the portal as we speak. And the portal closes Friday, by the way. So if you ain't found a home yet, good luck. But I think I feel for these high school kids and their parents, because these coaches are freaked out about the portal and NIL, and rightfully so. And they got to get the best available talent. And the best available talent already has played college sports. That's just the facts. There are some D1 athletes at different high schools that are just going to come in and make an impact. But most of the time, they go to the Power Four schools. They go to the Clemsons, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Michigan States, the UCLAs, the USCs, the Texases, the Tennessees, the Oklahomas, the Penn States, the Syracuses. They don't go to North Carolina A&T. They don't go to Jackson State. Sometimes they do, though. They don't go to Florida A&M. Sometimes they do. So they don't go to Delaware State. They don't go to Howard. They don't go to HBCUs 9 times out of 10. They don't even like to bother with mid-major PWIs anymore, which is absolutely shocking to me. Because there was a time in recorded history when a kid that wasn't happy at the FBS level could come down to an FCS team like a Delaware or a Marshall when Marshall was in FCS, or Georgia Southern when they were in FCS, and wreck shop. That time is come and gone. So now the FCS coaches, they got to be realistic about what kind of kids they are going to get. They're going to get the low-level FBS players that, just ain't getting no tick and could benefit from getting tick at the FCS level. And they are, yes, they are taking from Division II schools as well. We see it all the time. So this is a mess. This is a mess that has yet to be defined. There's no uniform policy on recruiting in the portal. There's no uniform NIL policy. Like this is a everybody for themselves situation on all levels. And I feel bad for these high school kids because I know because the way it's been for the last 50 years is if you wreck shop in high school, you're gonna get good looks in college. Now it's like, well, the college recruiters say, how about you do a prep year? Or how about you go to a JUCO? And now you gotta get the parents weaned off of this Division I dream. Because a lot of their kids, and this is no disrespect, but there aren't that many D1 football and basketball players walking around the planet right now at 18 years old. There aren't. There are several. You can look at, certain basketball and football programs at the Power 4 level and see that. But for the most part, high school kids just aren't going to be what a lot of coaches need at this juncture. And as unfortunate as that may be, that's the way the game is played out right now. I had a watcher. Thank you for this because I didn't have the bandwidth to address it. But yes, got different budgets. UMES and Coppin have more sports than Allen. Allen is D2 and not D1. The MEAC has accepted Coppin and UMS will never bring back football. I'd rather see Coppin and UMES still being schools rather than trying to bring back football and like St. Paul and St. Augustine's. St. Paul and St. Augustine both brought back football and look where they are now. St. Paul is closed and St. Aug does not have accreditation. Bingo. And that's something that a lot of our schools, Division I and Division II, are going to have to get real honest about in the coming years. Because this new era of college sports is here to stay. Kids are going to get paid. They can leave when they want to. They can leave as many times as they want to for the most part. Sometimes they can leave school and come back. That's the way it works right now. And it's unfortunate, but you have to adapt or die, really. That's really what it boils down to. So a lot of our schools are going to have to figure out just how badly they want to be athletic ivory towers. Because at this point in time, you can't, considering the way things are going with education right now, again, Linda McMahon is in charge of the Department of Education. Nothing good can come from that. And that means nothing good can come from that for HBCUs. Nothing good is going to come. These fools pretty much extorted Ivy League schools. They extorted Columbia. They extorted Harvard. They've extorted Northwestern, who's like an Ivy of the Midwest. If you think they're not going to try to come down on HBCUs, you're sadly mistaken, bro. Sadly mistaken. So this is something that every HBCU that has an athletic program is going to have to, have a come to Jesus about sooner rather than later. And I would hope that, considering where we are in the history of our country, where there is an active campaign against intellectualism, against degrees, against white collar work for black people. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing that a lot of our people are forgetting. White people, rich white people, mind you, will tell you you don't need college. These professors are too woke. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But guess what? Their kids are still going to college. Their kids are still getting degrees. Their kids are still getting those good old boy network jobs. And they're going to end up being the ones that, determine whether black people, Asian people, indigenous people, Latin people have a place in this society, in American society. I mean, they've already determined that we don't. Look at what's going on in Minnesota, for crying out loud. This is why I'm really just like annoyed with everybody that said Trump was not that dangerous. Twice people said this. People were like, "Oh man, we don't need to vote for Hillary Clinton. We don't need to vote for Kamala Harris. Look at where we are now. This could have been avoided 10 years ago. 10 years ago. The moment Trump started asking Obama for his birth certificate, we should have nipped that in the bud, to quote the late great Barney Fife then. Now, y'all let that man get in office once. He did a lot of danger. It took Joe Biden, who was ready to go ahead and sit down. Joe was ready to give it up. But Joe Biden came back and ran for president to save this country from itself. And it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough for certain people. People are talking about Joe Biden is he's what about his mental fortitude? Did we not just see this dude just this week get up in the middle of the meeting and go over to the window of and just stare out the window? If that ain't a person who's sundowning, I don't know what is. Joe Biden ain't never did no foolishness like that. And I think the thing that bothers me most about Kamala Harris losing is that it just reinforced the fact that this country will never accept anybody who isn't a white man in charge. White people lost their ever-loving minds when Obama ran the country for 8 years. A black woman, a beautiful, accomplished, intelligent black woman running this country, that was a long shot anyway. I hoped against hope. I hoped against hope. I was like, man, people gotta see how great Kamala Harris is. People gotta see how wonderful she is. I grossly misunderestimated the racism and the stupidity of white America. I grossly misunderestimated that. I think a lot of us did. So now that we know, we've always known, but we know for sure now that white people will gladly vote against their own interests, against their own, self-preservation, as long as black people suffer, as long as Latin people suffer, as long as indigenous people suffer, as long as Asian people suffer. So yeah, back on track to this though, but tying this back into the HBCU thing. Our schools are really going to have to get serious about where we fit in the athletic hierarchy in this country. Because we were never going to compete with Ohio State. We were never going to compete with UC. Yep, ma. I've said this a lot of times. A lot of dudes that, a lot of brothers showed they whole behinds when Kamala Harris was running for president. And I ain't forgot. And it was brothers that I respected. And it's brothers that I don't rock with anymore. In the social media space. Black men that I know in real life, ain't on that foolishness. But people that I, had good social media relationships with were talking down on Kamala Harris, and I said, "Oh wow, you fools are gone." So let me distance myself from y'all, because ain't no way, boy. Ain't no way. Stan says, in addition, the demographics that are being targeted by ICE did not vote for Harris either. I think that's a broad brush to paint, because I think a lot of people in that sphere did vote for Kamala Harris. There was just one loud uh contingent of people in Dearborn, Michigan that blew it up, and now they are begging for everybody's help. And black women are like, "We told you, dummies. We told you, dummies." So now everybody suffers, and that's why I'm saying that our schools really need to get serious about the academic side of things, because we already know that Linda McMahon. Number one, Linda McMahon comes from the world of WWE. We know she doesn't deal in reality. And now that she's working for the Tangerine Tyrant, we know for sure that whatever he wants, she's going to do. So our schools really need to be, closing ranks, circling the wagons, getting ready for what is to come. Because again, if this administration can make the Ivy League bow down, what chance do the rest of our schools have? It's just something to think about. I had to watch her. Kamala told everybody what Trump was going to do. She told Hillary did too. There is a clip from Kamala Harris's last speech that said Donald Trump plans to use the military against his own citizens who disagree with him. And is that not what is happening right now? She couldn't say it any plainer. People who mentioned Project 2025 couldn't say it any plainer. People just chose to be stupid. And as my grandmother used to say, a hard head makes a soft ass. And there's a lot of tender tushes right now because people didn't want to listen to common sense and reason. It's as simple as that. You can communicate all you want, but if people don't want to listen, or people just too stupid to listen, whatever the case is, that's where we are right now. That's where we are right now. People just didn't want to listen to reason. Like, people just really thought that this dude was so harmless that he could run this country a second time. And there might not be in America when he's done. Because let's be real about it. The rest of the world is moving on without us. China is already, moving on to trading with different markets. Same for all the other Asian nations. So Mexico, Canada, the Netherlands is ready to fight this whole Greenland mess. So the United States really is just, Jesse the Body Ventura said it best. We are a third world country right now. We absolutely are a third world country. And it's unfortunate. And that's why I'm saying that we really need to get serious about, protecting our schools. Because you're not going to be able to athletically, build your way to dominance anymore. I mean, again, we were never going to be on the same level as Power Force. So we need to be smart with how we treat our athletic and academic programs. We need to have a balance. Because I can tell you now, if an HBCU decides to go, balls to the wall on sports, they won't be long for this world. Because it's a money game that neither one of us can play. But yes, back to sports. So on the basketball side of things, I cannot imagine, UMES falling off a cliff at any point in time. Right now, the way Cleo Hill and Malika Willis have those programs going, they just look like really, really strong contenders. And I think Howard still wins the women's MEAC, the women's side of the MEAC. They just had a hiccup at UMES. If nothing else, I think this wakes them up. Because I think what Howard had was a little bit of, I don't want to say overconfidence, but they definitely felt like, after beating, Cincinnati, who beat Iowa State, by the way. So Cincinnati is no slouch on the women's side either. They went into Providence and beat Providence, a Big East team. No, Providence isn't a Big East powerhouse, but it still has more resources than Howard. So if you think about it, this Howard women's team looked like they were just going to run roughshod over everybody in the MEAC. Now, They're playing catch up to UMES. So I imagine that Ty Grace and her staff have pretty much drilled it in their players' heads that, all right, now, y'all see this ain't no joke. So I think Howard wakes up. I still think Norfolk State is going to be heard from. Howard is well on the men's side, but UMES, I think we should enjoy their success as long as they have it, because again, this is something fairly new to that school. I mean, this is UMES's best start in the MEAC since I was at Delaware State many, many moons ago, like 2000, 2001, somewhere in that neighborhood. And again, that didn't pan out because they didn't even make the MEAC semifinals that year, I don't think. Because I remember who won the MEAC in 2002? Was it Howard? Yeah, MEAC won the fun. It's not a funny story, but it's a story that absolutely deserves talking about. So Howard lost in the MEAC final, but I'll never forget, Delaware State played Howard in the MEAC tournament game in 2002 in Richmond. And Gail Goodrich's son, some of y'all may not be old enough to remember Gail Goodrich. But Gail Goodrich was Jerry West's backcourt partner on that 72 Lakers team that won 33 in a row, 69 games in the NBA championship. But yeah, Gail Goodrich's son was playing for Howard at the time. And him and Miles Davis, and yes, that was our point guard's name, Miles Davis. Cool cat, by the way. And him and Miles get tangled up. And what does Gail Goodrich's son do? He punches Miles Davis in the family jewels. And no foul was called. It was on Sports Center. I kid you not. This was 2002. So yeah, dirty play has been a part of basketball a long time. I still ain't over that. 24 years later, I'm still absolutely stunned that Gail Goodrich's kid punched Miles Davis in the gonads and did not get a personal foul, a flagrant foul, or an ejection for it. Absolutely mind-boggling. Shouts out to A&T Roy checking in. UMES ain't no joke. We'll see how they handle the pressure. I think what helps UMES is the MEAC is not as deep as it once was. Granted, Central's off to a good start on the men's side, and Lavelle Moulton, you can never count out a Lavelle Moulton coach team. Never, ever, ever. Howard still has probably the most talented team on the men's side. Norfolk State, still the champion until proven otherwise. But yeah, UMES has a lot to look forward to. And we haven't talked enough about our and more friends, so we can talk about them now. We can talk about how A&T, they're in the middle of the pack in the Coastal. They still have a chance to move up. Monty Ross, after his flat with the referees has calmed down, and the A&T team, the A&T women, they've always, Coach Clark, not Coach Clark, Coach Robinson, Shaq Clark is the center, but what Terrell Robinson has done with the women's team has been pretty interesting. I'm very interested to see how they match up against Towson, because Towson is in first place right now in the Coastal, and Towson has a kid that I covered in high school who is closing in on 1,000 points for her career in college. Oh, why did I think they were closer to the middle? Whoops. I need to do a little more research then. But yeah, Towson's women has a girl who I covered in high school, and she's closing in on 1,000 points. I'm very interested to see her get to that mark. But yeah, and you got. I thought you guys won a Coastal game already. Yeesh. Whoops. So maybe Monty Ross needs to get on the officials a little more. Yeah. But the A&T women, yeah, but the Tennessee State men under Nolan Smith, again, we talked about them before. We knew that Nolan Smith was going to be a great hire. So if Tennessee State can somehow get to the OVC finals this year, they were in the semifinals last year under Penny Collins. So now what Nolan Smith has to do is get to the championship game, which I think he can do. And if Tennessee State makes the NCAA tournament, then I think that is a sleeping giant. Because, you have a guy who played at Duke under Coach K. You have a guy who was one of Penny Hardaway's trusted assistants. You have a guy who knows the DMV like the back of his hand. Yeah. I need to do a little more research before I get on here. I'm so used to talking to MEAC, that I kind of forgot about the MEAC and more part of this thing. But yeah, the Tennessee State men are absolutely worth a watch, and hopefully, A&T and I mean Hampton, find their way into Coastal because it's not easy. Lawrence 8618 says Tennessee State needs to get to second place, the top two. Oh, they get automatic buys to the semifinals. Oh, okay. All right. Got it. So yeah. So that's what Nolan Smith and the Tennessee State Tigers are shooting for. Hopefully they get there. Because I would love for, us to have 3 HBCUs in the dance at some point. Maybe even 4. But yeah, 3 would be nice. Because you already got 2 with the MEAC and SWAC. We would hope that at some point A&T and Hampton break through in the Coastal and that Tennessee State breaks through in the OVC. So hopefully, let's see. Let's take a quick look at the Coastal standings while we're on the clock here. So Hampton's 2-3, A&T's 0-4. Hampton is in ninth place, and ninth place, and A&T is 13th. So yeah, there's some work to be done, but I don't think that A&T is a 1-3 in conference at the moment with and Hampton is 1-2 on the women's side. So bracketology has SWAC versus MEAC first 4. Yeah, unfortunately that's probably what's going to happen this year because there's not a MEAC team that is probably going to win 20 games. I don't see it. Not on the men's side anyway. I would be absolutely stunned if anybody in the MEAC right now got to 20 wins before the tournament. Not that that's the benchmark for staying out of the first 4, but Norfolk State was 22-11 last year, and they still ended up like 14 or 15. I think, and this is why I really find it interesting that the NCAA is talking about expanding the NCAA tournament because we all know those spots are not going to mid majors and lower tier majors. They're not. Those are going to the Power Fours that, oh man, if we had just won this conference tournament game, if we had just done this better in conference, and the NCAA is going to say, oh, we feel so sorry for you guys. So here's the extra tournament spot. We know that's where that's going. We know exactly where that's headed without any shadow of a doubt. So that's why it is imperative that our schools continue to build up as best they can. Because again, you can't throw your education and academics under the bus to become a sports powerhouse. You can't do it at the HBC level. At the PWI mid-major Power 4 level, sure. Why not? Because the government's going to bail you out anyway. HBCUs, we ain't got that luxury. We have to be education first. And hopefully athletics makes a decent sort of run at some point. That's where we are at this point. But hopefully, the teams that are at the bottom, of the Coastal, Hampton, and A&T pick themselves up. We hope Tennessee State continues. Let's see where Tennessee State is right while we have the bandwidth. Tennessee State is locked up in a tight one. There are literally 5 teams tied for second place at 4-2 in the OVC. UT Martin is in first place at 5-1. Then you got Morehead State, SEMO, Tennessee State, Little Rock, and Lindenwood tied for second place at 4-2. So the OVC is absolutely a traffic jam right now on the men's side. So Tennessee State, they're in the mix though. They're in the mix, and that counts for everything. I think that's it. We spend a lot of time talking basketball. We spend a lot of time talking about the conditions that prevail, to quote Jimmy Durante, in this country. So Lawrence says the SWAC has 9 units. The NCAA has to pay this year around $18 million. This season, they can go up to 11 units, around $20 million. So, if anybody's wondering why the MEAC hasn't completely closed up shop yet, here's your reason. That NCAA tournament money it's money. It is money. So if the SWAC is getting that, I imagine the MEAC is getting something similar, if not as much, but something similar. So that's what's literally holding this conference together. Because I mean, there have been rumors about Central, South Carolina State going to the Big South. DSU has been, sending flirty little messages to the Northeast Conference forever. There was a point in time when there was a talk of Howard going to the Patriot League. And now that Richmond and William and Mary are in the Patriot League, it wouldn't surprise me if those sort of conversations start happening again. But yeah, that NCAA tournament money and the Celebration Bowl payout is what's keeping the MEAC alive at this point. Make no mistake about it. Hopefully, I mean, everybody's talking expansion. I mean, and I asked the question, y'all seen it. Y'all seen it. To quote Craig Robinson, I seen it. Y'all seen it. I asked Tiffany Dawn Sykes, the AD of Virginia State, if Virginia State would like to join us in Division I in the Mid-East Athletic Conference. And she said, Chris, not today. I was like, dang. But she said they got MEAC money, though. So it may not happen right now. It may be one of those old, it may be that old, the Lord may not come when you call, but he's always on time. Hallelujah. Maybe Virginia State will come on time. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, the MEAC right now is literally being held together by a paper trail. It is really that simple. MEAC is getting less. They're playing 1 versus 16 games. Yeah, they're getting less, but I still imagine it's more than what they probably thought they would get. But yeah, at some point, this conference is going to have to figure out if it is going to stick together. And then if it doesn't, where do these schools go? Because when you look at the lay of the land of the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, from Dover, Delaware to Orangeburg, South Carolina, there's not much that lends credence to any of those schools joining the SWAC. Tell you that right now. And the SWAC is probably saying, we full. Because when you think about it, they got 12 member schools. FAMU, and granted, I mean, I think they would make room for Tennessee State if Tennessee State did want to join. Because again, we forgot to talk about that. The renewal of the Jackson State, Tennessee State football rivalry. I think we'll talk more about that on Friday. But I think this is a step in the right direction if Tennessee State is interested in making those overtures and if the SWAC is interested in said overtures, and I think the SWAC would be. And I know that, yes, Tennessee State joining the SWAC is a pipe dream. But the way the Big South OVC thing is starting to kind of sort of fray a little bit, it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me. Ida Watcher says Virginia State has to get their enrollment up. That's one of the biggest issues of them moving up. Increasing athletic fees could hurt their enrollment. Virginia State has the largest budget in the CIAA. Makes sense. It makes sense, but I just think about how Virginia State has better basketball facilities than Delaware State. Oh, that hurts me so much. That hurts me so much. I love Virginia State's Convocation Center. I do. I look at it and say, why not us? Because the state of Delaware don't give a damn about Delaware State. That's why. Damascus Luton asks, what do you think about a Celebration Bowl style basketball tournament, men's and women's involved in the MEAC SWAC? First year, 4 teams, each per tournament. Then as the tournament grows, you can have more teams. Respectfully, a Celebration Bowl basketball tournament ain't a drop in the bucket to what an NCAA tournament payout does for the MEAC and the SWAC. It's just not happening. The reason the Celebration Bowl is so successful is because the FCS playoffs is a money-losing situation. Our schools figured out, and granted, I've been hard on Dennis Thomas since I was a student at Delaware State. But I will give Dennis Thomas credit for the Celebration Bowl because he woke up and said, hey, we ain't making no money in this FCS playoff thing. Let me call the SWAC. Let's call Charles McClellan and see what he thinks. And Charles McClellan was like, you know what, Dr. Thomas? That's a pretty good idea. And then ESPN said, hey, we'd love to sponsor that game. And cricket said, hey, we'll be a title sponsor. And they've been printing money ever since. So that's why I feel like a basketball celebration bowl is just not going to pale. Is it going to pale in comparison? Because NCAA tournament money is just like, you see it every year. You see it every year. That payout changes lives and the trajectory of institutions. I mean, look at what happened when Florida Gulf Coast made it to the Sweet 16 all those years ago. I mean, nobody knew where Florida Gulf Coast. I mean, it's in the name, Chris. Florida, the Gulf Coast of Florida. I mean, nobody knew who Florida Gulf Coast was. But after they started dunking on Georgetown and San Diego State and all these other folks, I was like, wow. And they have such a beautiful campus. Wow. Let's send our kid to Florida Gulf Coast. That NCAA tournament money and that NCAA tournament publicity changes lives. I don't know if a Celebration Bowl tournament in basketball would do that for the MEAC and the SWAC. I had a watcher said NCAA basketball units is money and no Celebration Bowl style tournament is going to bring in that much money. Lawrence says it's best to have an in-season tournament for. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what I think that's basically what the Chris Paul tournament is. And credit to Chris Paul for actually giving a you know what about HBCUs. I mean, because he finished his degree at Winston-Salem State, so he's legally an HBCU grad. I would just like for him to get back in the NBA so he could be announced that and at guard 6 feet from Winston-Salem State. That would be nice. But I think his career is over because the Clippers threw him under the bus. And that's why, and I hope the Clippers fail. Be quite honest with you. I know Ken Rashad does because he's a Lakers fan, but I hope the Clippers fail just on principle. Because I still ain't over what James Harden did to the Sixers with his lane behind. Oh, he just passed Shaq on the scoring list. Congratulations, you bearded idiot. I digress. But yes, there's a lot, behind the scenes that our athletic programs need to work out. And that's what we're here for. We'll talk about these things as they happen. And the tangent that I went on about politics, I was raised to be sort of like an activist. I mean, my mom always had me, we were out as kids doing anti-drug marches, before we could even, understand what was going on. We were out there marching, we were involved in, civil movements and different things of that nature. And, so if I go off on a political tangent, forgive me, it's just in my nature, it's in my blood. But, we talked about a lot today, and I'm glad we did. So that's going to do it for this edition of the MEAC and More. Greatly appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you would like to donate, we have Cash App. You can do it to the Cash App. That's redundant. Type in $ HBCU Sports. Give your money there. We are on the Zelle app. You can go to the Zelle app, donate at hbcusports.com. Drop your money there. We also have a website, hbcusports.com/donate. Drop your money there. You can also keep dropping super chats while we're on the air. And this goes for every program we have. Tomorrow will be the Better Than Less Than podcast with my colleague, Jared Hoffman. He's going to give you everything you need to know about D2 and NAIA HBCU basketball. So be sure to tune in for that. And Friday, we will return with the HBCU Sports Live SWAC page edition of the podcast, where we'll run down everything that happened during the week that was and probably preview the basketball coming on the weekend. So be sure to do all of that. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you aren't already. Become a level 1 or level 2 member. For the neat and tidy sum of $4.99 a month, you can get all the Black College sports news that fit the print and broadcast as we like to give it to you. We are also on all manners of social media. We're on the Musty app. That's Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. Just search for us there, HBCU Sports. You will find us. So thank you all for watching. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. And until the next time we speak, y'all take care of yourselves and each other. We gone.